children are incredibly observant. Like we teach them to be observant, to categorize, to sort things like at a very, very young age. So it makes sense that this is the direction that they're going in. Um, and oftentimes, like when we talk about like the definition of racism, because I know that people do define it in different ways. Is it possible for people of color to be racist towards each other? And whether or not you believe that, everyone is certainly capable of holding racial biases and harming other people based on those biases. And so that's the language I usually use when I'm talking to students of color, if they are microaggressing one another or harming each other based on their racial or ethnic backgrounds. So understanding first that bias applies to everyone, therefore anti-bias applies to everyone too. That we do have to be really intentional about how we're thinking about relationship and identity in our classrooms, how explicit we're being there, and how we are really also trying to affirm identity whenever possible. I often talk about how a couple of years ago, if I looked at, even just my classroom library, if I was looking at a book on, slavery or, indigenous genocide or, anti-Asian xenophobia, in terms of representation, sure, I have a lot of different groups centered here, but none of them actually teach my students about the culture, identity, joy, power, contributions, anything positive. And so I thought a lot about what my students are learning about themselves, but also what are they learning about communities and people who are different from them too, because we don't want to just portray everybody as, as the oppressed, even though of course we have experienced oppression, but that doesn't define us. However, when we do highlight these struggles, recognizing that we do have so many similarities, that so many of our experiences are tied together that influence one another,